I'm good. I'm excited for the album Country Again, side A, 11 tracks. I want to break down a couple of these because it's phenomenal, dude. And we'll start with this single, Country Again. I'm going to play.
Last night we cracked some cold beers, cranked their church to 10. Thought, man, it feels good to be country again.
Such a good tune. And as I'm
appreciate that.
You're like, this is the song where it started, right? This was the one that you kind of had this tune and you were like, all right, let's build around this. And the story behind this song is actually pretty funny because you were at a meet and greet and you were wearing cowboy boots, right? And everybody looked at you like, what the hell is Thomas doing? Where are the kicks at? Tell me that.
Well, to understand that story, you have to understand where the kicks came from in the first place. I remember 2013, I was on the Jason Aldean tour wearing snip-toed cowboy boots, and I ran out on his catwalk that was like this metal graded material and about busted my face wide open. And if you've seen me on tour, you know that I jump around a lot. Last year I shot out of a toaster, before the show. And I was like, man, I'm not gonna be able to walk by the time I'm 60 if I keep wearing these on stage. And so I traded them out for, Chuck Taylor's, and that went into a deep, dark hole of being obsessed with sneakers and all this kind of stuff. And I remember one day, I think it was like early 2019, I was going through my closet on the bus, and I was like, dang, I haven't worn these in forever. And it was like my Luke Casey's that I had gotten, I think in college, and I put them on and wore them to meet and greet. I remember my band watched me walk in, they're like, what are you doing? I was like, what do you mean? And even people that I met in meet and greet were like, man, I thought you'd be wearing some, neon kicks. And I was like, not tonight. And I remember from that point forward, I never really wore sneakers on stage again. And I'm still waiting on somebody like New Balance to create a pair of cowboy boots that will protect my knees and my ankles. But no, man, it wasn't really just that. I've kind of felt a shift in early 2019 of just a lot of things were just different. Like I woke up one day and just felt different. Maybe it was the gray hairs I was noticing in the mirror, or maybe it was like the type of music I was listening to, or I don't know what it was, but I just felt like a lot of things just got simpler one day randomly.
Yeah.
And it kind of led into a lot of the music that I was writing as well. And so I'd written Growing Up a long time ago, and I thought this record was going to be called Growing Up. And then I got on a Zoom write, my very first one, May 2020, and I wrote this song called Country Again with Ashley Gorley and Zach Crowell. And immediately it just kind of slapped me in the face of like, well, yeah, I mean, this is kind of the anchor of it all. This kind of ties into everything that I'm trying to say. And it turned out to be the name of the album and the name of the single, and it's been a pretty neat ride since early 2019.
I want to talk about a couple of the other songs. I am a sucker for a sad country song, which is
same.
Weird. I'm happily married with 3 kids, but for whatever it is, and my wife goes, "Is there something wrong with you? Like, why do you?" Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know. I just love the feeling of a sad country song. And so, as I was getting to check out some of the songs, and you previewed some of these as well, there's one called "Want It Again."
Girl, I'll put this heart of mine somewhere good and safe in case you want it again someday.
And this song, man, is so phenomenally written because, who hasn't been through something like that? But then when you get to the song, and I don't want to ruin it for anyone who hasn't heard it yet, something that happens, but walk me through this song.
Man, I mean, if you know anything about my wife and I's story, this is somewhat of a continuation of Marry Me, but this one actually has a happy ending, which is good. And I remember I was in Canada on a writing trip. I actually wrote this song and Growing Up in the same day with the same writing crew. And I was on my bus, and the other writers were on a different bus, and I came over to grab a bite to eat, and I was asking one of my friends on the bus, I was like, have you seen those headphones that I've been looking for? He was like, yeah, I put them in that drawer, in case you wanted them again. And as a songwriter, when you hear things, they just click. And so I remember sprinting to the other bus and being like, hey, I have this idea called Want It Again Someday. And kind of wrote it from this perspective of like, Lauren and I dated in high school and then broke up for a long time and both dated other people. And as much of my heart as I gave away to certain girls, I still kept this much of it protected, just in case Lauren ever wanted it again, she could have the whole thing, and obviously how the story played out. But that was kind of my take on that. And just kind of how, as I dated, there was always that part of me that was just like, I just don't know, and unless someone is just better than Lauren, I just don't see how I'm ever gonna get married, and thank God, we got married because she's been one of my best friends since I was in like 6th or 7th grade, and when you get to marry your best friend, it's always a cool thing. So.
Well, it's a perfect segue into the next song that I have a clip of, because as I'm looking at the track list, and I love it when this happens, there's a song called You Heard. And as I'm looking at it, you automatically in your mind create an idea of what the song probably sounds like. And so I'm like, oh, this is going to be your upbeat, like You Heard, like that kind of thing. And I listened to it.
As I look at this green-eyed girl from Tennessee, the one I bothered you about since I was 17, and I know that I wasn't wasting breath or words as I look at her, and I'm pretty sure you heard.
And I was like, oh, he did it again. That's classic Thomas Rhett right there. Walk me through this one, dude, because again, it's such a phenomenal tune.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's hard for me to explain these songs without mentioning the songwriters, because without the co-writers, man, these records don't have any life. You know, I mean, I've got a bunch of ideas in my head, but I don't know how to execute them myself. And so, it was my dad and Chase McGill and Matt Dragstrom, but they were on the road writing with me. And I remember we were writing a song before the show started, and I thought that once the show was finished, we were going to finish that song. And I came back on the bus, and Chase was playing his guitar, and he was like, "Man, I've got this song title called You Heard." And I was like, "Exactly what you thought." I was like, probably some, generic, country song that's upbeat and all this kind of stuff. And he started playing me that verse, and it's basically just a prayer, man. It's to me, it was like, man, I've asked God for these things for so long, and then you kind of start to feel like maybe I'm just wasting breath. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe he ain't hearing me, And then as I've looked back at the 10 years of my life, everything that I prayed hard for came true, just not in the way that I saw it happening. You know what I'm saying? The whole thing with Lauren, it was just kind of out of the blue. And, I prayed that I didn't have to be a gigantic face in country music. I just wanted people to like my songs. And then he kind of went one step ahead of that and started to fill my brain with creativity, and then having kids too. I mean, I never in a million years thought we would adopt first. And then that was kind of God's plan for us. And the next thing you know, we can't not get pregnant. I mean, we have babies all the time. And so it's kind of just this continuous thing of like, you really were listening the whole time. And I just thought that was such a neat, weird title that tied into a song that meant so much. And that was my wife's favorite song on this record. So pretty cool.
It's a phenomenal song, man. It really is so good.
Thank you.
You've mentioned that you're kind of going back to your roots, right? Something clicked in you. And so I wanted to do a little research. And so I went through, and you've officially released 20 radio singles. Out of those 20, 16 have gone number one. So that's 80%. That's Hall of Fame status right there. 80%. So why change it up? Are you a little bit nervous about that at all?
Man, for the first time ever, I'm not nervous. I mean, if you were to ask me 3 years ago, the night before a record, I mean, I was like yakking. You know what I mean? Like, what are people going to think? What are the reviews going to be? How many stars am I going to get on iTunes? Like all that stuff. I used to put so much weight in, and those things are important, because you do want people to like your stuff. And but I mean, every record I've made, I've taken a little bit of a leap. I've especially in the last 3, I've gotten really progressive, with more of a pop country sound, and just like in that line in country again, it says I'm not ashamed of where I've been or what I've done. I mean, those things made me who I am. But I think every artist has to explore different outlets to remain creative. I mean, even my favorite acts of all time went through a million different changes. And in the end of their career, they kind of always end up going back to what they started with, just a better version of it, and so for me, I didn't spend a whole lot of time in that era when I made my first record. I kind of jumped straight into some other different sounding music, different sounding production. And so for me, going back in this direction is progressive for me. You know what I'm saying? I definitely could have kept going with the theme that people kind of know me for today, the crash and burns, the look what God gave us of the world. I mean, I'm so proud of those songs, but for some reason, I stopped writing them, and I stopped being, chasing, I guess would be the word. Like I used to always have records that I was like, I want my record to feel like that, or I want my music to sound like that. And for the first time in a while, I was like, I want music to sound like me, and if I'm at a party or whatever, and I sit down with the guitar, these are the kind of songs I play, you know what I'm saying? And I was just like, why would I do anything different than what comes naturally? And for me, that's just telling a story and being able to tell the truth in that story too. So I think that's a lot of what this record is about.
I'm so glad you said that about sitting around and playing the songs for like your friends at a party or whatever. Cause as the way that I like to listen to country music is after we get the kids to bed, I'll have a drink. Right. And then we'll play some music and just kind of feel it out. And so we were listening to a lot of the songs on this album, and I told her, I said, this to me feels like he could do this whole album with just him and an acoustic guitar all the way through.
Yeah.
And that, to me, man, is so real. It's
Yeah.
authentic.
Well, that was the point, you know. I mean, there's so many songs in my booklet now over the last decade that I'm not sure if I sat down with a guitar that would come across the same. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
I was trying to imagine playing like Crash and Burn just acoustic. It just wouldn't have the same vibe, you know. But you know, all through quarantine, all I did was sit down here in the studio and play acoustic for, you know, folks on Instagram and social media, and that's my favorite place to be. You know, just me and a guitar, and so I really wanted to be able to play this whole record, like you said, top to bottom, just me and a guitar, because that's how I started doing it. You know, it was just me, and figuring out chords and writing terrible songs till you found a good one. You know, and so this is kind of what came of that.
I want to talk about Dos Primos, which is your tequila.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to be talking about. I'm going to name drop for a second because I was talking to Russell Dickerson. I actually think on Monday, I think.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, when was the last time you got a little tipsy? Now, here's what he said.
We were hanging out down there with Thomas Rhett, and it was like 11 in the morning. He was like, "Just Primos?" And I was like, well, here we go.
Can you tell me about that story of you and Russell hanging out on the beach and drinking tequila? Yeah, man.
Well, you know, like when you're at home, you know, 4:30 is acceptable. Right. Saturdays maybe 3:30, you know, but like when you're at the beach, it's kind of like, no, it's 11. You know, it's like there's no time zone to start drinking. And I just got a bunch of. I only buy my product. I never really get it sent to me anymore. I have to go to the liquor store and buy it, so I can at least tell the store manager, "What's up, man? You need to carry some more of this," you know, and
start pushing.
Yeah, so I brought it on the beach with no mixer, nothing. Like we didn't even have ice. It was just a bottle of tequila, and me and Russell at 11 a.m. just started kind of passing it back and forth. And
I love it.
You know, next thing you know, it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're like, wow, where did the day go? You know, and but yeah, love Russell so much. He's one of my best friends in the world.
Thomas, thank you so much, man, for the time. Country again, side A, 11 tracks. They're all freaking phenomenal. We're gonna play the single in a second. Again,
cool.
Thank you. Always good to chat, man.
Hey, likewise, man. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Bye. Talk to you later, buddy.